Well, thank you everybody for coming. This is kind of impressive to see such a big turnout. And I will say that when it comes to the solar eclipse, every county is doing things a little bit different. A lot of them are trying to do these different task force and grab people and bring them to meetings. And those don't seem to be very successful. These sort of things really seem to kind of help get the message out. So I appreciate everybody taking time out of your day to come. And especially when I heard there's a wait list, that's pretty impressive. We're happy to come back and do this anytime. And if you are involved in any church groups or anything like that, and you think this might be something good for them, let me know. We're more than happy to get out and do that for everybody. My name is Jeff Klein. I'm currently the Wood County Emergency Management Director. Before that, I spent 30 some years in the fire service as a paramedic, working with somebody in this room at one point. And so it's nice to see them today. And after a while, I retired out of Perrysburg and came to the EMA. And a lot of people ask the question, what does the EMA do? And trust me, when I joined the EMA, I did not know what the EMA did. I thought they did something completely different. What the EMA is, if you think back in the day, World War I, World War II, we had the old civil defense. And all the money was spent on civil defense. It was spent on preparing for war and all those different things. Over time, they started realizing that we're not getting attacked over here, but we're having tornadoes, we're having hurricanes, we're having all these different things. And it wasn't until 1979 that President Carter took all these different groups in the federal government and kind of put them under one umbrella, and that's when FEMA was created. So when you look at governmental things, FEMA and emergency management is really relatively new. And so that's kind of one of the reasons people don't really understand. How it works is, if there's ever disaster in Bowling Green, you would have Bowling Green Fire, Bowling Green Police, all those folks would kind of do everything that they could to take care of it, reach out to their mutual aid partners. When they can't do it, that's when they call us. And then we start reaching out to neighboring counties. When they can't do it, then we reach out to the state does the same thing, reaches out to the federal government. Just to let everybody kind of know, when we had the Lake Township tornado, a lot of people were kind of surprised FEMA didn't come in. In order to get FEMA's attention, you need to have about $17 million of uninsured damage. So if you have a $20 million building with a $20 deductible, you have $20 worth of damage, not the 20 million. So to get that is going to be very challenging to ever get them to come in. And the other thing is, if they do come in, the most you're ever going to get is about $34,000. They come in with millions and billions of dollars, and what that's designed to do is get you back on your feet. It is not designed to replace everything you have. And that's one of the reasons that we like to go out and talk to people, because it's so important, especially with groups like you. One of the things that they found is when you stop paying for your home, somehow your fire insurance and homeowners insurance and things like that go away. You don't get the value updated on your insurance. So, maybe when you bought it, it was worth $50,000. Today's market, it's probably worth $500,000. But you only have $100,000 worth of insurance. So that's one of the things we really kind of press the folks to kind of step back and think about some of those different things and make sure you have the insurance, because really, if a disaster were to ever happen, it's not really kind of set up to replace. It's just kind of help for a few days until your insurance and then kicks in. Today, we're here to talk a little bit about the eclipse. I don't know how many people have heard something about it or not. I heard about this a couple years ago. And my first reaction was like, yeah, fine, whatever, no big deal, yeah. And then they started having presentations for us, and it was like, oh, this is going to be an interesting few weeks for us. The eclipse is 199 days away. As of today, we broke the 200 mark. When I started doing this, we were like the 800, 900. So it's kind of hard, it was strange to see those numbers drop. The presentation you're going to see today, this is based off of what the state of Ohio kind of puts out, because one of the things that's very important is we want everybody to get the same information. In 2023, we found there's a lot of different sources to get information, and people can post anything they want on the web and do all that sort of stuff. But unfortunately, one of the things they found with the 2017 eclipse was there was a lot of misinformation, especially when it came to the viewing glasses that people were wearing. People found that they could just sell them on eBay in different places, and they weren't really rated for it. So one of the things that we really want to stress now is to make sure everybody is getting same information. It's actually accurate information. And you see up there, I'm up there, and the other two people, those are folks that are within our office, Aaron Konecki and Suzette Hall. But there we go. That's what was supposed to happen. If you just stand here enough, someone will do it for you. Just kind of some trivial different things. On the 268 moons in our solar system, we're the only planet that's capable of actually having an eclipse. The last one in Ohio, and this is why some of this information is kind of important, how rare this really is. The last one in Ohio was in 1806. And since 1867, there's only been 15 visible in the United States. Now, if you're like me, you remember when this happened when you were young.
Yeah.
And I looked it up, and it was, I think it was March of 1973. It was on the East Coast, and it wasn't even close to what we had on 2017, which is mind-boggling to me because I swear to you, I thought it got dark, but evidently it really didn't. So a lot of people think it's going to be the same kind of thing, and it's not really going to be. The next one in North America is going to be 2044. If I remember correctly, I think that's the one that's going to be in Alaska. Not a lot of places to view it in Alaska. So it's kind of a big deal. And the next one in Ohio is September 14th, 2099. So mark your calendars for that one. Even I'm not marking my calendar. There we go. Now, a couple of things that are different with this one and the one that was in 2017. You probably remember the 2017 one. There was a big push for the viewing glasses. And if you remember that day, you put the glasses on and went, yeah, that's kind of impressive. And that was it. That's not what going to be with this one. This one is going to be total darkness. And when you look at the past, the direction that it took, the one before was 12 million. This one's going to have about 32 million people that can see it. And because it's a wider path, going from 100 or 174 miles to 124 miles, the path is wider, so the total darkness is going to be longer. And that's going to be one of the big things that's going to attract a lot of people that are really into this, because it's going to have a longer period of darkness. There's the map of where it's going to come in. Like I say, it's going to be April 8th of next year. It's going to come in about Greenville, and then it's going to go straight through the state, and it's going to go out right around Avon Lake. When you look at that map, that center line that's the darkest, the closer you are to that line, the longer you're going to have darkness. Okay, so that's why the thought is everybody's going to be going towards that line. For some reason, Forest, Ohio, and it just must have something to do with the rotation of the earth and that, they're going to be one of the hot spots in the nation. They're going to have a longer period of darkness than than a number of other places. The big thing about the period of darkness for the astronomers and things like that is there's evidently certain parts of the sun that you can only see during an eclipse. So they're going to be able to get a lot of information. So this is kind of a big deal for NASA. Originally, NASA was supposed to be going to Hardin County, and I don't know what really changed that, but I think they realized maybe they have a NASA center in the path, and they're going to stay there. But the Hardin County thing is kind of important for us, because if that's on the spotlight for everybody to go, that's where a lot of people are going to try and get to. And have you ever been to Hardin County? Is it a nice county? I drove through there Wednesday. Very nice county, very rural. They cannot handle these people. These roads back up so fast. They don't have parking lots. I think they have one motel. So think about it. So everybody going down to see that is going to back up into Hancock County, which has got Fenwick, which has got a lot more parking lots and a lot more things like that. But they still don't have. So eventually it's going to back up into Wood County. What they're expecting for population is they're expecting the population on that center line to triple to quadruple. And then for us, double to triple. So we have 132,000 people in the county, roughly 264,000 people. I tend to believe that. And the reason I believe it is we go to a lot of state meetings, and when somebody would say, Wood, we say, where are you from? Oh, Wood County. They know Bowling Green University. They know the water tower, the mosque, and Levis Commons in Perrysburg. I find it a strange combination. And they know backbone. So everybody seems to know these. So we're on the map. People know Wood County's out there, and when you look at the university and you look at Bowling Green, you got a lot of parking lots. You've got a lot of viewing areas. You've got 200,000 alumni from the university. You've got 5,000 students living in some sort of university type home, whether it's on campus or off campus. If you're a parent and your kid was in some place and you were into this and thought this was going to be cool, you got a free place to stay. So that is kind of why, and not to mention 75 and the turnpike, you know, the Golden Triangle. It really is going to be big. And I think a lot of times when people start hearing this, it's going to be like, whatever. It's going to be like the snowstorm, you know, and on April 7th, we're going to wake up in the morning and go, what do you mean it's shut it? Going over Florida. That's not going to happen. This is, and I think that's what really, I think that's a problem because this, you know, I hate to say it, this happens all the time with us. You know, when we work a lot with National Weather Service, and the guy that's in charge of emergency warnings right now came from New Orleans and then was in Florida and some other spot. He said this is the worst spot to forecast weather he's ever been in. Between the lake and everything else, the way it does. But this is going to happen. You know, we may shift a few seconds here and there when it goes overhead, but it's coming. And I think that's the big thing that people have to really think about. These are the counties, the blue counties, those are the ones that they consider totality. We're on the whatever color that would be, kind of a greenish type thing. We use this one a lot with public safety people. Because as I said earlier about using your mutual aid and doing things like that and relying on your neighbors, we have no neighbors to rely on. Realistically, everybody is in the same boat. And when you look at the southern part of the state that's not impacted, very beautiful country, we go down to Hocking Hills all the time. They have no resources to send us. They, you know, you're looking at counties that may have 1 or 2 sheriff deputies and 1 state trooper on duty and a massive volunteer fire department. So the thing that we've got really are trying to get people to understand is this is going to affect the entire nation. The resources that, and we've always written in our plans and doing things like that we've been accustomed to getting may be very challenging because when you look at some of the cities that this is impacting, Dallas is one, Denver is one, Louisville is one. It's hard to imagine the federal government is going to send all these federal resources to Bowling Green and not where the bigger massive population is. And frankly, to be honest, that would be really wrong for them to actually do. So 9 counties in the center line, 26 are in the same position we are, and there's 20 of them that have only part of the totality. And like I say, the rest of them are outside, but they're really not a lot that they're going to be able to do to help us with this. This talks a little bit about population, how close everybody is to Ohio, because 70% of population in the United States, which is a fact that's very hard for me to believe, is within a 1-day trip to the state of Ohio. Not Wood County, but the state. And that's kind of what this text is. There's 31 million people in it, and then every 100 miles you go from 75 million to 149. So it's very conceivable for these folks to come in. Now, I was at a presentation, a tabletop exercise actually a month or so ago, talking about this, and somebody said, you know, this doesn't include Canada, right? And we were like, well, no, it doesn't. All the figures that we have, these are United States numbers. This is not figuring Canada, which is an hour drive away from us.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is where it's really one of those things. Like I say, the more I look at this, the more I say, this is coming. And we really need to kind of pay attention to some of these things. When you double the population, just imagine everything that goes with it. We are what they call a just-in-time society. If you go to Walmart and you buy a TV, they will tell you, we sell X number of these TVs a week, we order X number of these TVs coming in. If all of a sudden something happens and they get 100 people buying these TVs, there's just not enough. Most of the restaurants, places like that, storage is a cost. If you have a lot of storage, you're paying for a lot of space that's not being necessarily used. So we have a society that's not very well stocked for a lot of these things. hotel demands, things like that. Some hotels are already sold out. One of the hotels in town, I looked up, if you want to go tonight, it's $93. If you want to go this weekend, it's $240. But if you want to go on graduation weekend, it's $350. So there's going to be a huge demand for this. You know, and this is one of the reasons for us to get out and talk. And if you are involved with churches and different groups and things like that, that maybe could put some event on, give something to do for people, that's where we really want folks to kind of be able to do that, because it really will be a great income generator. In some of the different places that we've talked to and read the after action reports, that's one of the things they felt they could have had a lot more events and made a lot more money for the community or their organization. And educational opportunities, I know the university is looking at doing something with their astronomy department. Schools, as of now, most of them have closed. And if they haven't closed, I think what they're gonna end up doing is one of their calamity days, like a snow day type thing. This is gonna hit, don't think I said it, at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Like 3:05 actually, but. And what will happen is about 1:30, it'll start getting dark. It'll be like it is now, 1:30, it'll start getting dark. Somewhere around that 3:05 range, I think it is for us. We're gonna have anywhere from 90 seconds to about 2 minutes of total darkness. We can have about another hour and a half getting light. So that 90 seconds to 2 minutes is gonna be the prime thing that happens. In talking to people that have seen it, it's one of the ways, and this is gonna sound strange, life-changing. I have heard that from more than one person, and I will tell you that the people that I'm hearing it from are what you would call respected members of society. Public safety, health commissioners, things like that. Well, Freddie that was talking about from National Weather, he's not, and that was the word he used to, it was life-changing. So I can't wait to see it because it's gonna be really weird, but they say it's not 100% like night, but the day animals get quiet, night animals start making noise. Which is gonna present some other issues, because there's, you know, people out there that have things, sundowner syndrome and some different things. That we may see some strange things because of that. These are just all the different groups that are working. The state has kind of put together a task force. And early on, when they started talking to us about it, they're gonna have all these plans and different stuff. And I think they realized one huge challenge. First thing is, Ohio is a home rule state. We have no authority. They have no authority over us to do anything. They can strongly suggest it. We can strongly refuse. And the same thing unfortunately goes for us in the EMA, is what we can sit here and say to Bowling Green, you do A, B, C, and D, and they can go, well, we're not doing it. So what I think they've kind of switched over to now more is a best practices, which I think is actually going to be a better model to come out and hear some of these different things, because it gives you the opportunity to think, how does this really fit into my life and how am I going to do this? But as you can see, just about everybody's represented at NASA, the EMA, Highway Patrol, Police, Fire, ODNR, the security infrastructure people, because this really is going to be a huge type thing. This is a picture from the one in 2017 in Kentucky. This was taken by Ohio EMA staff that knew that this was coming. 5-hour drive to where their site was, 17.5-hour drive back. People got just, I'm done, stop it. Hard for me to imagine. While we were at the fair, a lady came up and we had some information. She goes, you know, I took a tour bus when the last one happened out in Wyoming or something like that. Oh, what'd you think? Well, we got stopped on the expressway in the tour bus for 17 hours, ran out of food in the bathroom back there. And all that, she didn't seem to see the humor the rest of this. But this is going to be a major problem. And this is the thing, we've talked to a lot of people about that. And a lot of people have come up and said, hey, you know, I went and I saw this. One county said it was kind of a busy day. Everybody else was like, ooh. So I tend to probably be more on that side. That it's going to be something extremely memorable. Again, with the population surge, everything that kind of comes along with it, traffic management is just going to be huge. Just huge. and trying to keep local on, all the different things going together, the public work. We talked to like the utility companies. And they do not see a real issue with the utilities or anything like that, which is kind of a good thing. You know, we don't have to worry about brownouts with electricity or that. But there's always that chance some goofy storm will come through, you know, because April 8th, what can the weather be? It can be like this right now, or we could be out of the And I will say that they will tell you that Northwest Ohio, which is kind of a which I thought was a savior. We have a 65% chance of being cloudy on that day. And I said, well, that's pretty good. And they said, yeah, or that's, you know, gonna keep people from coming. They said, well, I think they said the lake is typically a little bit clearer, but statistically in the state, you're one of the better viewing areas. Oh, well, thank you very much. We're hoping they were gonna go different, but the health and the public services is gonna be such a huge issue on that day, and I've already kind of touched a little bit on the weather. One of the things that they want the counties to do is kind of get out and do some of these presentations like we're doing. What the thought is think about a sporting event, a concert, something like that, brings a lot of people together. Everybody straggles in. I could have an assigned seat and I have to be there 2 hours early. I don't know why, it's just me. I have a kid, but it'll be 15 minutes late. Just the way people are wired. But what happens at the end? They leave together.
Yeah.
That's what's gonna cause the problem. That's what caused the problem in Kentucky and all the other states. So the goal is arrive early, have some events, stay late. So the more that we can have different groups doing different things and giving people something to do in these different events, the longer we can stretch it out, the longer that we can stretch it out, the better chance we have of not having that gridlock. But we really got to start thinking through things, the supplies and all that sort of stuff. Everybody's talking about food trucks. Well, more people have talked about food trucks than there are food trucks. I hate to break the news, we keep saying the same ones over and over again. But think about a food truck. How many people do they feed? 100? Is that gonna feed that group? No, it's not. And this is the kind of thing to get out and get people kind of understanding some of this stuff. Now, not to throw anybody here under the bus, you have a kitchen. The more that we can use infrastructure that's already in place. Now, it's not reasonable. Not everybody with a kitchen is gonna be able to do something. There's security concerns. There's different things that you have going on. Insurance companies may not like it. I mean, totally understand that. We don't want everybody to do it. They necessarily have to do it. But the more people with kitchens that are using kitchens, the less we have to rely on food trucks. The other one everybody seems to like is porta potty. Question. Anybody know how many porta potties there are in the state of Ohio? 52,000. I want you to know that number is using up valuable space up here, but for some reason, can't seem to erase it. It's like theme songs when we were kids watching TV. But think about porta potties. I don't know if anybody's ever used one. Clearly you have. They can be what we like to call a challenge to maintain. Now, and I don't remember, I'm gonna say it's like 250 to 300 people or something like that. They have to be serviced and rehab. There's more than that there. Okay, did you see the traffic backup that I showed on how are the trucks gonna get there? So this is a part of some of the stuff that we want people to really think about when we're looking at some of these things. Because this is what our world does. If you sit here and say, well, this is my solution to the problem, I'm gonna say, well, how are you gonna do that? And that's kind of what we do, but that's what we really want people, when you're thinking about these events, to really think about. If you're gonna sit here and say, my church can do this event, and we've got X number of parking spots, and 3 people, 4 people in the car, we can serve X number of meals, you need to have that food there. You can't rely on getting it in. And then and again, the story, you know, what do churches use their kitchens for? Funerals. Thing on Sunday. Feeding a limited number of people, typically don't have storage space. So these are the things, and this is why some of the places it's just not gonna work. But the more that we can use the stuff that's there, the better off we're gonna be. The viewing options, there is a state website that's out there. the Ohio, and I'll show a picture of it. Kind of recommend everybody go there, kind of take a look at it, because like I say, it's got the accurate information. If you do anything with your community, you know, you're on school boards or anything like that, I really encourage you to look at it. The state has grabbed a bunch of data from different places and populated this website for viewing areas. Some of them will work, some of them may not work, and some of them, for whatever reason, you may not want people there because you're gonna got your own event. If you see something like that, feel free to reach out to the EMA and we can get it taken off the website. It's not a problem getting it taken off the website, but you just gotta know that it's there. And anybody here familiar with Perrysburg? The Mr. Freeze?
Mhm.
Do that little piece of grass next to Mr. Freeze? That's Eisenhower Park and that's a viewing area. I know. I was like, and I've been like with Perrysburg, it's like, you look at that. George is gonna love selling ice cream in the day, but. You know, but this is some of the little nuances that we're running into. One of the things that they did was they put all the fire departments on it, because if anybody has an issue, you can go to the fire department. Well, Columbus-based people did this. What do you have in Columbus? Full-time fire departments. What do you have in the majority of Wood County? Volunteers, there may not be anybody at the station. So there's some little nuances like that that we're kind of going through doing that. Like I say, the eclipse planning, we haven't really taken that approach because this has really worked well for us to kind of get the message out and to sometimes coordinate between everybody's different schedules. But we are very willing to come out and give this presentation. We're very willing to come out and talk to people, and we're very willing to talk through plans, anything like that, that people may have, because the reality is the more that we can get everybody in the county prepared, the more that we don't have to worry about some of this stuff. We just have to worry about the people that came in that don't have motel reservations. And anybody want to be the bearer of bad news to them? Yeah. The reality is you left and went on vacation and didn't have a motel room. That's not something that we can open up shoulders for. And prepare for the worst and hope for the best. I think the more that we prepare, the more that we think about some of this stuff, really the better off that we're going to be. Like I say, we've talked about the totality, the golden triangle there, the potential viewing areas. That's one of the things that I think about, you know, when I'm driving. In a couple of weeks, I got a sister-in-law in Louisville. We'll be driving down there. I can already tell you where I'm going to stop. I'm going to stop here and get gas before I get to Cincinnati, because that's just insane, or I'll get it afterwards when I get on 71. And people that drive these roads a lot, I think the university, they're going to see that. They're going to see like Kroger's and some of those different things up there. Like I said, there's 200,000 alumni. You know, when you think about that, people spent 4 years here, you know, because most of these people are before the virtual learning and stuff like that, so they were here. And I'm guessing a couple of them snuck around and found secret places that nobody else knows about, but they don't realize that the second they left, the next group came in and found the same spot. A lot of kids that live here, they came in for school. And like I say, they're looking at 264,000 for the population, which conceivably they're saying it could triple. But even doubling the population is going to be bad. The time frame, like I said, April 8th, but Easter is March 31st. What happens the week after Easter for a lot of schools? They're out on vacation. Yes, they are. That's why we're expecting people really to start getting here on the 5th. On top of that, some of the motels and stuff like that, they've kind of realized that if you want to be, why sell your room for 1 day? We can sell your room for 3 or 4 days. So there's a lot of different things like that are going on. If you want to book a room, you got to get so many days. So we really anticipate that. So the window that we're anticipating all these things to happen on will start on the 5th and even into the 9th. If people stay here, roads are going to be busy. So that's kind of the time frame that we're looking at for the residents and the people that live here to really be prepared during it. And one of the ways it was kind of explained to me, and I think it's a great way to look at it, is, you know, we're getting a blizzard tomorrow, and we're probably going to have a level 3. You know, just make sure you have food on the 4th. Make sure your car fills up with gas. Because that's one of the things I think I forgot before was when they were coming back from Louisville, gas stations ran out of gas, restaurants ran out of food. When restaurants start running out of food, what happens? They go to the grocery store. Not to mention the fact that we have all these campers and all these other people coming in, this is gonna be an issue. So this is the thing that we're trying to get out to folks. This is why we think it's so important to be prepared. Make sure that you've got food, you know, and anything that you're gonna need, and not just you, but your, you know, your dogs, pets, family, all that sort of stuff. And just assume from the 5th to the 9th, if you don't have anywhere to go, stay home, enjoy. Like I say, the impact on, yeah, well, it does, you know, the impact, the increased traffic. So the guy that wrote this, Colin Campbell, lived in, and I hope I don't, Mobile, Alabama. He was going to drive to Nashville, Alabama, or Nashville. Anybody want to guess what I got in geography? Nashville, Tennessee. Made it as far as Birmingham, and the expressway was so crowded, they said, you know what, we know where there's a park in here, we're just gonna get off. Got off there, there was, you know, maybe 50 people at this park when they got there. Within a couple hours, there was a couple thousand. Wow. That's the way that this is gonna do it. Now, I did just for giggles, because as you can tell, I don't know where anything's at in this country. I did a Google search, Birmingham and Nashville. That's a 2-hour drive. 2 hours away from the center line. Traffic was backing up. That is why, yeah, that's why I see this. The Wyoming, when we were having a class, I think somebody from Wyoming was talking about this. They said 4:30 in the morning, they were starting to have travel issues. And they had theirs, and that was in the afternoon too. So this is truly April 8th. We're asking you, please, if you don't have to go anywhere, don't schedule doctor's appointments. And even if you schedule doctor's appointments, I talked a little bit about the parking lots. You may get to the doctor in the parking lot. The reality is, unless you've got a fenced parking lot and you have the ability to secure it, you can't secure it. So this is why it's just one of those things. And if you own businesses, if you don't have a business that is based on something that would be beneficial for the eclipse, close. Just close. Are your customers really gonna come? Let's just, I don't wanna throw any business on the bus, but are you going to drive through this kind of traffic to review your insurance policy with your, you're not. Well, they're not gonna do it. And even if they say they're gonna do it, they're out on the road, if they can't go anywhere, 75 is gonna start shutting down. What's everybody gonna do? They're gonna go off, they're gonna go 25. What are we gonna do? I know the back road. Oh yeah, you know the back road is everybody else. It's just gonna, this is how this trickle down effect, it's just gonna continue to get pushed back, pushed back, pushed back, pushed back. So, it really, you know, we just can't understate that enough. We don't have too much here, but we've got that very popular diverging diamond in Perrysburg that really, I mean, I drive it all the time. When they started explaining this to me, I was like, oh, that's kind of a cool idea. 50% of the people literally avoid that because there's something about that. Now imagine being somewhere and all of a sudden all the cars are going on the wrong side of the road.
Yeah.
That's people are gonna try and, I mean, the Center Point interchange, there's one of those up in Central Avenue in 475. If you've ever driven that, it's just horrid. ODOT realized not a good idea. We won't do any more of those. We call them the Michigan U-turn. I don't know what the official name for it, but if you go up like Spring Meadows and even Route 20 in Perrysburg, you got to go up through the U-turn to come back. Imagine people that don't know this, that it's just going to slow things down and it's really going to bog things up. So really what, as I said, if you can stay home that day, please stay home. If your friends can stay home, if you can take the day off work, we're happy to talk to employers for you on behalf to sit here and say, you know, I understand hospitals, you know, and there's factories, you know, the glass factories, these furnaces, you do not turn glass furnaces off. It takes days to do that. I understand all that sort of stuff. But the flip side of it is you have to look and go, this is 3 o'clock in the afternoon. If this is shift change, you have to change it. Your people cannot do this. And even if you sit here and say, and one of the things that we've heard is, well, yeah, you know, maybe I'm out in the country. Where are your people coming? Well, they're coming from Pemberville. Oh, so they have to drive through all this. And I think sometimes this is where we come in and, you know, people don't necessarily think about that. but it's like, it's just a bigger picture than necessarily where you're at. We're even asking like, because chemical companies and people who store a certain amount of chemicals have to report to us. We're even saying to them, if you cannot have deliveries on those days, please do not. Please don't, because we don't have to want to worry about chemical incidents or anything like that on the expressways. Anything that moves is going to be impacted. This is just kind of a quick list that we came up with. Mail, garbage, your buses, taxi cabs, Uber, all that sort of stuff. Home delivery. If you, every Monday you get your medicine delivered, that's gonna be a bad day to have that happen. Try and stock up on that. Meals on Wheels. So, you know, make sure about that. Again, the appointments. I know that a lot of doctor's offices and places like that are scheduling that far out and they're not really thinking about it. Some county, I know, are actually planning on using doctor's offices like urgent cares and things like that. But just kind of keep that in the back of your mind, whatever we can do to kind of stay away from that. And like I said, you know, we can't control parking lots. You know, when you look at the Greenwood Center down there, you know, that's one of the ones, it's gonna fill up right away. So we've got three government offices in that complex. Between the title, BMV, water, soil, and the veterans. If your people can't come in, you know, and employees, yes, sir.
You live across from the fairgrounds.
That is my meeting next Thursday at 7 o'clock.
Okay.
I'll be honest with the fairgrounds. I've had anecdotal conversations with them, and early on the concern was the April 8th day. And the problem is, if that ground is soft and they start moving, yeah, oh, you see it at the fair where they pull out the tractor pulls trying to pull people. Yeah, that's gonna be a huge issue. But I think there's a part of them that's sitting here going, how can we not do something?
Yeah.
So I don't really know what that's gonna necessarily pan out to be, but yeah.
Well, we live across in the night and about the communication, for instance. The last night of the polls, we were texting, you know, and we couldn't text because there were so many people up there doing the same
You
thing.
could ruin my next slide. Yeah, but yes, that is going, but you're right, and I'm glad you experienced that. Now, I'll tell you, that is one of the things here.
But
Yes, and not for the last night.
yeah.
Well,
That's,
he doesn't use his phone as much as I do. I noticed it throughout the.
Okay, but I.
yes, it's,
Because they were doing video, like the tractor pullers were doing their
Yeah.
own news.
society today, and I'm thinking that you're like me. Everything we do does not need to be a picture. We do not need to video everything we do. Thank you for not videoing everything we do. Because Jeff wouldn't be here, would he? You can tell Jeff's a little high strung sometimes, and oh, you should have seen him when he was 25. But it is, and that is the thing that so many people today are gonna wanna be doing that. And out there and putting this information out. Oh, that was the wrong button. We'll get to, because I come up with some different communication stuff on that, but yeah, but the fuel stations, like I talked about. We're having a really hard time getting information out of certain groups. Because, as I say, the businesses are just in time. My daughter was a buyer for Costco. And one of the things she bought was the avocados, and she had the Texas region. And they had a list of certain weeks, this is going on, that's going on. They know how many avocados they're gonna sell. So corporations are very locked into doing this. So service stations, a lot of them are independently owned, but none of them they typically don't fill their gas tank. The fuel tanks are in the ground all the way, they fill for what they think they're gonna use. None of them want to spend tons of money to fill those tanks all the way up and not have it get used. So there's been some challenges getting in there. The other one is your corporate stores, your Kroger's and Myers and Walmart's and places like that. At first I was surprised, but they don't want their local staff talking to people like me. But I understand that from a corporate standpoint, because you want all the Krogers to have the same merchandise. You don't wanna walk into a Kroger somewhere else and not have, be expecting something and not have it. So it goes to the corporate level, but getting into the corporate level has been really challenging, so the state has been working on that. So we're not 100% sure what all these places are doing now. I can't imagine Kroger doesn't necessarily have a plan. But I can't necessarily verify it. And the other thing is, I want to go back to the picture of the country. And where it was like coming in through Texas and that. Again, it's not an Ohio thing. We're not restocking grocery stores in Wood County. We're not even just stocking grocery stores in Ohio. Kroger's has to do the entire footprint. Right. And the same with gas and all these other places. So to sit here and think, even if the traffic is not a big deal on the night, grocery stores, gas stations, things like that are probably not going to be restocked that day. You have to give them a few extra days on top of that. That will allow them to get restocked. And anything like COVID and some of these other things that popped up, it could be challenging getting things back in sync. So this is why things that are really important, make sure you have before that date. Even home repairs, the emergency, plumbers and things like that are gonna have trouble getting around. Again, asking non-essential businesses to close, and if you are, for whatever reason, you have to go out and do something that I realize that may happen, just call ahead and make sure that they're open and there's gonna be a place to park. Because I think that is going to be one of the biggest things, and that's what we told people down at Greenwood. If your people leave and go to lunch, and you promise them a spot when they come back, and then what are you gonna do? And the employees not being able to get to work, kind of think about that. The school buses, one of the schools, one of the things that we told them early on was, because there was one of my talking to, wasn't sure they wanted to close. And it's like, well, you need to start thinking about your plans. What are you gonna do with the kids when they're stuck on the school bus? Now, if you're like Perrysburg, they use the same bus for 3 or 4 different routes. So now you got these other schools are gonna be delayed. So the kids that are stuck at school, are you gonna feed them dinner? What's your breakover point where you say, no, we're gonna spend the night? What about if they need medicine? Oh, and you probably should have about 4 or 5 lines for the parents to call in and find out what's going on with their kids. And for some strange reason, that was the one I think everybody was like, oh, we're done. But this is what we want people to think about when you're looking at some of these different things, because really, in our world, we do a lot of planning. We just kind of have plans for some of the different stuff that may pop up. For the communities and stuff like that, pop-up events are going to be huge. There was some place in Wyoming. Wyoming seemed to be the interesting spot for the last one. They had a pop-up concert of 60,000 people. And that's the kind of stuff that it's just impossible for us to control. We just don't know when that's gonna happen. Again, have the supplier communication, you were talking about, and we'll get a little bit more on that, people getting to work, and what are you gonna be able to do after the eclipse? Now, the communication, if it's not transportation, communication is really one of our biggest concerns. Cell phone carriers, we are told, have about a 25% buffer of a sudden increase. So if you bring in extra people, that will happen. Tell me again about the tractor, how well that works.
I hear they're gonna bring extra towers in next year. That's what I've heard.
Portable towers.
Portable towers. But it was a mess.
It is, and it's interesting because we have a thing called FirstNet, which is like a government priority. Those phones really work great. Verizon phones, hit and miss. But that is one of those, that is going to be something that's huge. A lot of people have gotten rid of their home phones. I don't have a home phone. Oh, I do. It was one of those things, the only thing we ever used it for, is when we went place and they said, what was your phone number? We gave them that. And we phone and it was fine. We had it turned off. We probably went a year without a phone even plugged into it. But people don't have those. And everybody has cell phones. Not only cell phones. I would think about data cards. There's a hotspot. I thought I saw a hotspot over here for like portable Wi-Fi. A lot of people are using those. Another group that's using them is who? The food trucks. So you can bring a food truck in
Oh, no.
and they have all their food. And they've got no way to scan your credit card bill. So
Oh.
think about things. What are you gonna do about that? Now, the answer to that is you park them next to the building, create a pathway for them to get in. And let them use the hardwired Wi-Fi because we don't expect that to be an issue. But if, I know this building, you've got IT people and you say, well, we just wanna let everybody be like. Then you may have to test it and do some of these different things to make sure that it works. But think about that, the more that you can get away from those. I don't know if you've got different medical alarms, fire alarms, things like that. A lot of them nowadays, they're putting wireless cards in. Because you can take it wherever you go and this and that. So those may not necessarily operate. Because there's a lot of people, not just, kids and stuff like that, that they posting pictures and doing that. But there's a lot of things that we don't think about, like road cameras and things like that, that are all in these cars, and they're all gonna be affected. So the communication thing, really, that's one of those things we want people to really kind of take seriously. And think about some of the different stuff. Definitely gonna be, low, and like I said, the different, devices that could be out there. Some of the things that you can do, like I say, the typical internet phone or, what most people have now. But you can set your phone to Wi-Fi call. And most people don't realize that. Depending on your carrier, maybe it's free, sometimes it's a couple bucks to turn on. But if you don't have cellular coverage and you're in Wi-Fi range, so like if for some reason my phone carrier didn't work, but I was tied into your Wi-Fi, I could still receive and make phone calls. Problem is, you have to have the password to where you're at. So this is where it's kind of like now, if this is something you're interested, go home and set that up now. Don't wait until April 7th or till you start having problems. Because you may not be able to do the troubleshooting. But cell phones also work on 3 different technologies. You've got the cell phone, you've got the data texting and the Wi-Fi. So try and think about the different, if one doesn't work, maybe another one will work. Common apps or common platforms to talk to people on. I would not have believed this until I actually saw it myself. We were down in a cabin with good Wi-Fi in Hocking Hills. And we could text anybody with Apple phones, but not Android.
Oh, yeah.
If we went on Facebook and did Facebook Messenger, we could do all that sort of stuff. So for your family, things like that, have a common way that you're gonna communicate, a common platform. And we're not necessarily advocating one over the other, but if you find you have a mismatch of phone carriers and things like that, it could be a big deal. Apple uses encrypted stuff, and it goes to their servers and then back out, and the other ones just use a different SMS texting is what they call it. So it's just the way they operate. It looks on your phone like it's the same, but the behind the scenes stuff, it's not. And whoever you're going to be dealing with, your family members, things like that, make sure that they know. I have a work email, I have a home email. I got too much junk on that. So I have another home email. And then I have one through one professional association I was with. But just make sure that people understand how you're gonna do this. Another thing that's really weird, and we actually saw it in BG a couple years ago, is long distance and local work differently. And I don't know that I necessarily understand why, but there's times when you can make long distance phone calls and not local. So to have somebody that's outside the area, I have a daughter who lives in Seattle. If for some reason I can't call the wife in Perrysburg, I can call Kate. And Sue knows that if she can't get a hold of me, try calling Kate, see if Kate's heard from her. That's another thing to think about. Again, amateur radio, if you've got, there's some of these different things that are out there. Amateur radio, we think is gonna be a big one. Family radio and DMRS, those are just like the deep camping radios that you can buy, if you're gonna be doing stuff close TV. And again, if you've got the email, multiple ones, make sure everybody knows what you're using. The wild cards, and the pop-up events is gonna be one of the big ones. Another one that's interesting is marriages. There is a strong desire for a lot of people to get married during the solar eclipse. Good job for people like that. But they're gonna happen. The thing that really concerns us with a lot of these pop-up events and things like that is there's no coordination. If the fairgrounds today or somebody today, if they look, I wanna have a camping stuff, we say, great, glad to hear it, call the health department. They got a couple of, requirements, things like that. Real easy, it's camper space and things like that, it's not a big deal. But if all of a sudden campers just start showing up and parking different places, the reality is we're not gonna be able to get around and control that sort of stuff. And if it's concerts and all that other stuff, it'll be challenging. Where the people wanna view the eclipse, will they stay? Will we try and push them? We're gonna do everything in our power to push people where we want them to go. We can actually get on Google Maps and Waze here in our office, a contributor, he can close roads down and do things, so we can direct people as they're coming in. I don't know if you heard about, it was on the news this morning, the accident where the guy was following Google Maps. That has been a huge problem. And that's when we found out about this, was the turnpike accident right before Christmas. Remember that? They literally, state trooper was telling cars, follow the snowplow, they'll get you back on. The first 5 cars, follow the snowplow, we'll get you back on. Got off, their GPS said, turn left, turn left. 5 cars stuck in a road, neighborhood road, because they turned left. And Google, they just take these maps and they kind of populate, but they don't take into account things like the roads that go into the back of the turnpike plazas. They see those as the road that goes straight through. So we're gonna try and do things like that, but that's just in itself, we know is gonna be an issue. Road construction, we're hearing that everybody's gonna do everything in their power to limit the amount of road construction during this day. And this is gonna sound really strange, but one of the most interesting meetings that I used to go to is the I-75 widening meetings. Oh, every 2 weeks, everything changed because of supplies, and it wasn't even what was going on here, it was going on over here, they couldn't get this done, and they couldn't close this interchange. There's a lot of interesting stuff. Real world events, like I say, tornadoes, big fires, things like that, definitely could throw a monkey wrench into things. Like I say, utility companies are all like, you know what? Life is good, don't worry about it. But as we know, the Palm Sunday tornado, that was April. NASA, like I kind of alluded to earlier, where if the word gets out that NASA is going somewhere, they will have a huge following. So if for some strange reason, NASA would say, hey, you want to go to Bowling Green because you've got the telescope, it's drastically going to increase. And the emotions. This is one of the things that's been really interesting. There's a number of different illnesses and different things, the way people react to nighttime and that, and throwing people off their schedule, So I mean, that could be a challenge. Again, stay home, schedule your appointments so you're not going to be out on the road. And again, call ahead. If it's one of those things that you have to go out, and ask questions, what's the traffic like? Is your parking lot open? Is it accessible? Because I would hate to see people get caught out and not be able to get there. Plan like it's a snow event, whatever you can use. And like I say, the 9th is kind of the minimum. Plan for a few days after that. And the communications plan, make sure you have a way to communicate, because as you saw with the tractor pulls and being out there, it was interesting because the year before the tractor pulls, in 2022, you had storms coming through during that. And I was at a wedding in Grand Rapids, and they were trying to call me for some different things. And luckily, Aaron was at the tractor pulls. My phone in Grand Rapids didn't work because the system was still overloaded. So there's going to be this huge trickle-down effect. And people will do what they're going to do. I mean, I think this is going to be one of the biggest challenges. People coming in, they don't know the area, they don't know this. It's going to be just Yes,
That one, you mentioned before a site where we could get the most up-to-date information.
there you go.
Oh, perfect, thank you.
This, when you see this logo, this is the official state logo for that. So
Oh.
that will have like all the information.
How do you get glasses before? Do they go
You
out?
know, there's a lot of places that are starting to hand them out. We did a safety day last Saturday in Middleton Township and they had some. I know the university is gonna be kicking them out. I know libraries have gotten, some of the libraries have gotten grants for them. But they'll definitely, as they're coming out, they'll be more, because that's gonna be a good moneymaker.
Would it be a good idea that if you have family coming to have them bring bikes? So they can bike around instead of trying to get through traffic?
Yeah, and anything, I mean, those are the things where it's gonna be like, you know, the roads are shut down if you can get on this, you know, the sidewalks or other places like that to go. I know a lot of times people look at golf carts, things like that. You know, if you get one of the heavy duty Polaris ATV type things, the big tires and go in grass and do that. I can see that, but I don't really know that you really want to be riding down residential neighborhoods or open up yards. You know, I think that's gonna have a,
Could they use school buses? I mean, it's supposed to, besides the road, to shuttle people, because I've heard there's gonna be something big at the stadium.
yes,
And you wouldn't be able to walk, it'd take you quite a while to walk from the fairground to the stadium, but could.
they should have parking there. I mean, I don't, you know, the problem with the school buses is they'll have to, it's a non-school function, so to get people to come in, to drive up the workers, to drive the buses and to do that, and then sometimes insurance companies look at that and go, no, they're not students, is it a liability, you're not, and then, and I don't know how this works with state laws, but those are registered as school buses, not travel buses. You know, but I'm glad you asked that, because this is why we want to get the word out, and sometimes it's like, you know, it's 199 days away. Why is it a big deal today? Well, because of that. Because to get the answer from your insurance company, is it okay to use school buses? You know, to check with the highway patrol and say, or whoever would be that, to sit here and say, would they fall under that, or was there just like a daily exemption? And I know that a lot of these things have different exemptions. But, and I think that's where, if you're planning on doing events, I think that's one of the big things is, because I know like churches, and I'm not health department, so don't quote me on this one, but I was told that churches, when they do the kitchen licensing for that, you do a meal a week. So you can do like 52 meals a year. Well, then you just have to know that we're gonna do 3 meals a day for 6 days and subtract those from other things, but it's knowing that in advance, and if you have a church that people are gonna go crazy if you don't have a meal on such and such a day, or look and say, well, we can't maybe do all the funerals. You know, these are the things that people have to weigh out.
I've had a real hard time getting my brain around how big this is. You mentioned earlier that there are a number of agencies that are working together. How hopeful are you that there will be more information out? I mean,
There will be.
people are interested.
There will be. The problem, you know, it's one of those things where we're doing some tabletop exercises, we're doing some different things to find this out. We're getting some of the information out. And this is gonna be one of the things, and we have talked to like the local media, the EMA, we do a lot with the weather people. And they have assured us that we're gonna be a part of getting the information out, because just the cell phone component, just that component sitting here to you, the Wi-Fi stuff. When I talk to the news media, when they come in and they say something, I will talk to them for 10 minutes. And none of them have ever used 10 minutes worth of my footage, which is hurtful. But they use 20 seconds. We can't have that.
Right.
You know, and we're working with the University of Bowling Green. They have a media department, and we're gonna be putting out 3 videos. One of them is gonna be communication to help with that. So I think all this information that's coming out, we're kind of giving you the broad overview today. And what we want to do is like maybe a month out, if people would get in the groceries and not overwhelmed, because I think if we sat here and gave you the 4-page list of all the different things, it becomes overwhelming, and I hate to say it this far out, it becomes a white noise. I mean, it's just like, and unfortunately, somebody from Grand Rapids Township contacted us today, they talked to their Dollar General. And their attitude was like, well, yeah, but it's not gonna be that busy here, it's just gonna be a regular day. So we really need to get the word out, and that's really what we want, we wanna get the word out to people to go, this is coming. You know, you folks are here, Wood County Emergency Management. You can look us up, do they have phone books anymore? Internet, you can look us up on the internet. And we're happy to come out and talk to people because we really want this information out there. We want you to understand, we don't want people, you know, money dialysis is a huge day. On Sunday at 8 o'clock at night, we don't want to be dealing with it. So this is where we want everybody to have the plans.
Are there flyers or newsletters going out on it?
There will be, we're doing stuff on social media. Do you get from the senior center, we used to put a newsletter out,
Okay.
quarterly?
Mhm.
Quarterly. I shouldn't have said that as a question, quarterly.
Yes.
Aaron takes care of that. Have you noticed, Aaron takes care of a lot of things. But yeah, so we're gonna have more information on it, and this really is our goal, is we really. It's challenging for me, and we really appreciate any feedback, we're really immersed in this. Okay, this is, and for me to sit here and go, what do you mean you haven't heard? 50% of the people of Middleton Township hadn't heard of this. So we need to get out and get this out there conversation. So we need people to start coming, to kind of see that, because my hope is with the Wood County residents, everybody that can stay home stays home. And then we just have to deal with the people that are coming through. And people understand, you know, one of the things is, you know, the medical stuff. You know, if you have a medical condition and on Sunday, you're starting to feel like, maybe I go to the doctor, maybe I don't. You might want to call then, because if you get worse on Monday, I mean, that's what the police and fire departments are concerned about.
Yeah.
Especially the northern ones, because, you know, around in here, you can cut over back roads and do a bunch of things. When you're Perrysburg and Rossburg, and that, if you're going to Toledo, you're going over the bridge. You may, as you saw in that picture, going away from the cliffs, probably not gonna be bad. Coming back, they may not, if that road shuts down, a city just lost an income. You know, so they gotta come up with those plans.
Just a quick question, Jeff, and think about, if you think about emergency services,
Mhm.
okay? Like, will all fire departments, you know, that have staff, okay, that not volunteer only, but with, you know, full-time staff, don't stay on premises and then try to make a call, I mean, try to go out on a call?
That's gonna be that's one of the things that they're kind of working through on what makes sense. You know, there's places that are talking about emergency lanes. Yeah. They're great on paper, but you have to maintain it. How do you maintain it? With police. If you do not have police out there, you're not maintaining that lane. Because if you're not carrying a gun, I need to go that way, and there's nobody, I'm going. And I don't see how they're gonna do it. The flip side of it is, you have to get to the emergency lane. And I promise you, the emergency is not gonna be on the emergency lane. The emergency is gonna be substantially farther off, so I don't know. I mean, you know, and I think that's gonna be one of those things for the communities to kind of look at. Based on where their fire stations are at, emergency services are at, and where the population is.
Be interesting.
It is, and it's very challenging because it's, you know, you're really trying to forecast. Where are they gonna go? And it's in a storm could theoretically move people from here to here. Now they're saying if on the 7th, well, we're gonna be cloudy, everybody in Cleveland sunny, everybody's going to Cleveland. I refer back to the last 15 times I said the roads are gonna be almost impassable. How are they going to go? If there's no, I don't know about you, but if I had a motel room in Wood County, and I'm just gonna jump in the car and head out there and hope for the best, I would not say Wood County. I I think once the rooms and all that sort of stuff get filled up, I think once they're here, rain or shine, because it will. Even if it's cloudy. Even if it's raining, even if it's snowing, it is still going to get dark. It's still gonna get dark and it's still gonna get light. Is it the evening?
But people will be here by then.
Yeah, and I just don't see, you'll have some brave souls, but I just don't see. The movement, once they get where they're going, and that's, and part of it is just me, because I wouldn't do it. But that's where I'm interested with these different groups, if 75% of you put your hand up and goes, well, I do it in a heartbeat. That's gonna change things, but I just don't see physically how that's adapted. Yes,
How are the special services like police or fire, how are they going to cope and how are they gonna get around? Are they going to,
they're gonna have the same problems everybody else has. There's no way.
so can they use like the electric bicycles? Or like you say, you don't let them in golf carts, but if they had an official small vehicle, will they?
Well, even the golf cart, I think we have a golf cart at the EMA, Bowling Green, police just use it for the Black Swamp Arts Festival, and they had made mention about. If we have it for, and it's like, yeah, right now, there's no other real need for it if you want to use it. I think that's gonna be part of the challenges. The problem is, when you look at like the EMS side, it's not carrying a backpack. This is not what we did today. They are doing so many more things. They're gonna have 4 or 5 major bags that they're gonna be carrying with them to put them on a bike. Will be challenging. I mean, it's one thing to do it, because they do have like Toledo Fire has, they call them mobs, medics on bike. For the baseball games and a couple other things that they parade and some different things, events they have down there. They can get through crowds quick. They have a very limited supply of stuff. But there's a crew coming right behind them with the rest of everything else. And I think that is the challenge that it's going to be, and I think that's gonna be part of the messaging. And I think also part of it will be is, you know, in Perrysburg, I can call the police and go, there's a dog next door barking, and he sounds like a cat. Would somebody come check it out? And they'll be, sure, sir, we're on the way. And I think they're gonna really have to look at some of those things and say, you can't do that. One of my recommendations, it doesn't make any difference if it's safety or businesses or what, I have 3 plans. Your first plan, just like today, nice and sunny, the world is great, let's move on with things. Second plan is figure out in your life what's gonna make a difference. So, transportation getting around. Every day they look at the ODOT cameras and I-75 is 75 miles an hour. When it gets down to 50 miles an hour, we're gonna go to plan B. And plan B really isn't a plan B. Plan B is preparing for plan C. We're going to alter level of response, but we're not necessarily going to some of these calls. We're not necessarily going to be able to do some of these things. And I think for the most part, it can be, it's not gonna have the huge impact. You know, fire alarm. You know, there's fire alarm going off over here. Well, today's thought is we want to get the fire department there as quick as we can. That day, it might make sense to make a couple phone calls and go, do you see anything? And if everything looks okay, we're gonna call you back in 15 minutes, see how it goes. And I think that when I look at the older level of service, the thing is, I would highly recommend not transporting out of Bowling Green for Bowling Green Fire for EMS. Take them to Wood County Hospital. If Wood County Hospital's overloaded, that is a shame. If you gotta fly them out, fly them out. But don't drive to them because you may get stuck on impassable roads. Yes.
I've seen that long distance calling. Is there any way that you could inform those companies about the area of Eclipse and they keep their truckers on those places where they're during that time?
Take the truck off the road.
The big ones that were really.
I didn't understand. That's not happening. I will tell you right now, there's a big conversation over oversized loads. And
They're helping block the traffic for days, maybe. Stay off the road.
cannot. This is, when you look at the business, and I don't understand how this works, but there's many billions of dollars traveling I-75 every day. To stop that traffic would cost people lives because their medicine is not getting delivered. Services aren't getting
But if
delivered.
they're just there because they can't move.
So what our goal is the thing that I would say about this, just because I can't talk to anybody, doesn't necessarily mean it's not being planned. Let's take UPS. This is not UPS's first rodeo. UPS knows, boom, boom, boom. UPS knows, don't promise Wood County 24-hour delivery on Sunday. Don't do that. So they're gonna know to change their routes. They're gonna know to do things. The major companies, I'm not really worried with. It's the independent drivers that make money we can't get that message to, because to me, you're right. Would you rather, this is chemical stuff, you want that chemical truck stuck on an expressway for some board person to come up and mess with the valves? Or do you want it sitting behind a secure fence? In the UPS one, my brother-in-law is a pilot, and I got for them, and I got to see their command center. And you don't think about it, but there's somewhere in the world right now, there's closed airspace because of a volcano, because of weather, because of this or that. And they really are on top of that to be most efficient. So UPS, FedEx, Best Buy, Walmart, all those, they know that. We don't want our product sitting here, so I don't think they're necessarily gonna be an issue. It's just gonna be the independent one. So this is where we've got to get the message out to folks, to get them to understand, if you get paid by the mile, why would you want to spend 7 hours sitting in your truck looking?
So could you kind of explain a little bit, like in your second or third slide, you said a suggestion was to form a task force.
Mhm.
Right, I mean, you're presenting this information now, sounds like.
Some counties are doing this, and take Hancock County, I know that they have some different task forces that they have going. But what's challenging is for us is we have 25 fire and EMS. Hancock County has 3 police departments, sheriff, Bluffton, Finley. They have a county EMS. When you have a system like that, it's much easier to control and kind of create a county plan than what we have. But like the university has created a task force for the university, the city, and with the Chamber of Commerce, they're doing some different things to,
So there are tasks.
so there are groups that are out there.
Task forces already in place, looking at the issue.
Mhm.
Okay.
But the problem is there's a fair amount of folks that really, to be honest with you, look at this and go,
Yeah, it's a cake.
yeah, okay, so there's 5 extra cars on it. And I think the problem is we've never seen this.
Right.
I didn't touch on the airports. Casper, Wyoming, again,
Yeah.
has an airport similar to Bowling Green, 17 international flights, one was a Saudi Prince on the 737. In 2016, if you'd have told Casper, Wyoming, your airport's gonna be full of jets. One of the guys from Bowling Green Fire that told us about this, forget where he went, Kentucky or something like that, and he was outside an airport and it was lined with private planes. One of them was Dale Earnhardt Jr. And it's like, clearly you people live in the same realm I do. You don't jump on your private jet and go places. But evidently that is a bigger thing. So all these, yeah, and it's like you would never think about that.
So will there be like a public campaign for like announcements, suggestions,
Through the media, we'll
Yeah,
be doing things through the media, and what the EMAs are doing is we are holding monthly best practices meeting, for lack of better terms. And we're learning things, and I'll just give you one, if you're planning on doing something from a church, there's one in Seneca County, created a website selling their parking spots. If you buy a parking spot, you're guaranteed meals. And bathrooms, and you can come into the air conditioning. And
So do the local hospital have task force?
they're part of the hospital coalition. And the hospitals actually just had a presentation on it the other day.
Okay, cool.
Even though we've heard a lot of, scary things today,
Mhm.
I just want to thank you. I think
Yeah.
that it is so wonderful to hear
Yeah.
what your agency is doing. And I certainly heard that there's a lot of discussion beginning to happen. And, you know, when we look at our emergency folks, that, you know, I lived in Florida for 10 years, but they dealt with things all the time. You guys deal with this stuff, so all you have to do is take it to a much bigger.
Well, the thing that's interesting with Florida is they deal with a lot more than we do, but they deal with the same thing, and they learn from their mistakes. And they can create things, and this is so rare.
Yes.
And then when you look at a lot of the 2017 things that came out, I don't know how applicable they are today because of social media.
But you're doing it, that's what's exciting.
Well, and that's the thing, is to be able to get out, and this is why for us, it's great to be able to come to these groups, and I know there's so many more places out there. That we can get to, and it's not uncommon to come to something like this and to get to more opportunities out of it, because I think. You know, it's important. I mean, if Sunday, the 7th is not. I mean, what are the churches gonna do for the parking lots? I mean, this is where it's like, you know, and they're gonna people that go where the cars are. So, I mean, and you do what you want, you do what you want, if you wanna control the parking lot if you can, but it's, how are you really gonna do it?
You're doing it.
Thank you.
Forest is like an hour away,
Mhm.
and so, but staying here would be about the same.
It will be the same, the only difference is the duration of darkness. That's the only difference. If you're, anywhere in the area of totality, it's just a time frame on darkness. The closer you are to the center line, the longer.
Would drones help? Because you could be up and seeing where there's a problem and a clear way of how to get to the problem.
Yep, and that's one of the things that's being looked at because, there's a concern with the traffic cameras.
Yeah.
And if there's inclement weather with the traffic cameras. But, it's funny, like Crawford County, EMA director is a good friend of mine. There's 2 traffic cameras in Crawford County. So they're not gonna cut it. Route 6 doesn't have traffic cameras, so we're gonna need the drones in that, and that'll be one of the things that sheriff department's got, like 6. And Fraser Township got a number.
You'd be able to take this whole presentation today
Mhm.
to another group and show it to them.
Yes,
So we wouldn't have to have you, but we would have heard all the information from you.
and I mean, well, we can, and if you have like, depending on what the group might be, we kind of like try and come up with some different nuances for them.
Okay.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate the opportunity to be here.